Do you want to learn how to turn this into this? Have you bought this crochet kit from KMART? Are you completely confused by the instructions? If so, know that you're not alone. Throw the instructions away and watch this tutorial instead. So I've done a bunch of tutorials for these KMART kits because it really breaks my heart that beginners pick up these kits thinking it'll be an easy, affordable way to get into crochet. But the instructions are universally bad, so it's really easy to think that crochet is just too hard, when actually the issue is that the instructions are really unclear and confused. Of all the kits that I've done tutorials for so far, I actually think this one is the worst in terms of its instructions. So I've modified the pattern a bit in this tutorial, in some cases just to fill in gaps, but in other cases I've changed the pattern to improve the final product. But despite the instructions being terrible, I think the final product is actually super cute. In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can make this into a cushion cover as per the kit, but also how you can turn it into a usable tote bag. This tutorial is very beginner friendly, but I assume that you know how to do a slip knot, a starting chain, single crochet and double crochet. If this is your absolute first time picking up a crochet hook, have a look in the description where I've included some great tutorials for those foundational concepts. Check those out and then come back here and I'll show you everything else that you need to know to be able to make this cushion cover, including how to do these adorable popcorn stitches, how to do clusters, how to make the little daisies, and how to use the join as you go method to connect your squares. Okay, so this is everything that you get included in the kit. The important thing to note though is that the crochet hook that they include is not the size that it says it is. So it says it's a 4mm on this end and a 3mm on this end. Actually, this end is closer to a 3mm and this is more like a 2.5mm. So if you do want to use this crochet hook again, just keep that in mind. If you are using the crochet hook that's included in the kit, you want to use the smaller end, the end that says 3. But if you're using your own crochet hook like I will for this tutorial, you want a 2.5mm hook. Okay, so to start our granny square we need to do a magic circle or a magic loop. Magic circles can be quite tricky. I'll show you how I make them, but there are lots of tutorials on YouTube for different approaches. Also, if you really just can't get the hang of it, instead you can chain 3 and then connect those chains with a slip stitch and use that as your loop instead. But to make a magic loop, you just want to hold your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger. Then you want to wrap it around your first 2 fingers, go underneath, and then cross over the top, like so. Then you want to take your crochet hook, go under this first strand, grab the second strand, pull it through and twist it up. Then you want to hook this piece here and pull it through as a slip stitch. And there's your magic loop. Now we're going to do 8 single crochets into the magic loop. So instead of inserting your hook into the stitch like you normally would, you just insert it into the middle of the circle and then do a single crochet. So that's our first stitch, 2, 3, 'Then once you've done your 8 single crochets, you just want to pull on your initial yarn tail to close up your loop, like so. And now to connect the circle, we are just going to slip stitch back into the very first stitch that you made. So just insert your hook under that first stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Now we also just want to fasten off, so to do that you want to cut a yarn tail, and now to secure our work we just want to pull this yarn tail through the loop on our hook and pull it all the way through. And you can pull it tight to secure it. That's our first round. For our second round we want the white yarn. So you want to insert your hook into any of the stitches. Then you want to drape your white yarn over your hook, leaving a bit of a yarn tail for weaving in at the end. And then you just want to pull that white piece through to the front of your work. And then we want to chain 2. And then we're going to work on our first popcorn stitch. So a popcorn stitch is essentially 5 double crochets all in the same stitch that are then connected at the top. This initial chain is going to serve as one of our double crochets. So assume this is our first double crochet that we've just done. So to do the next stitch we yarn over, insert your hook back into the exact same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We do another double crochet again into that same stitch. Fourth double crochet, and our fifth. Now, once we've got our 5 double crochets, or actually our chain and our 4 double crochets, you want to turn your work over, and now we're going to insert our hook into the top of our chain. So we did 1, 2 chains, so we want to insert our hook here, and then we're going to yarn over, pull through, and then pull through this loop through the one on your hook. That's a slip stitch, and then that's our first petal or first popcorn stitch. Next we want to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to do our next popcorn stitch into the second stitch. So we're going to do 5 double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. It's our first double crochet. We want to do that 5 times in total. And then once you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets all in that same stitch, you want to turn around, and now we're going to insert our hook into the stitch of our first double crochet out of the 5. Yarn over, pull through the loop, and then pull through the loop on your hook. And there's our second petal. Again, we just want to chain 2, and then do another popcorn stitch into this next stitch. Now, one thing to be wary of is that your stitches are going to get very crowded. You're doing 5 double crochets into each individual stitch. It can be hard sometimes to see where the next stitch is. So if you see here, it almost looks as though this is my next stitch, but actually there's another stitch here. It's kind of hiding behind part of my petal. So it is really important when you're doing this one just to pull back your petal and make sure that you are actually working into the next stitch. So just continue doing popcorn stitches with 5 double crochets connected by a slip stitch and then a chain 2 in between for each of your petals. You want to do that 8 times in total into the 8 stitches that you did in row 1. And so I'll meet you back here at the end of row 2. Now for row 3 you want your aqua coloured yarn, and we're actually going to work into what's called the chain space. So in between each of these popcorn petals that you did, there's a space where you did the chain 2. And it's these spaces that we're going to work our next row into. So to start, you just want to insert your crochet hook into any of those chain 2 spaces. You're going to drape the green yarn over your hook, leaving a bit of a yarn tail for weaving in. And then you want to pull it through to the front of your work. Now to start, we're just going to chain 2. And then we're going to do what's called a 2 double crochet cluster. So to do that, we start a double crochet as we would usually. So you want to yarn over, insert your hook into the same chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you want to stop here. So at this point, you should have 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to start another double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into the same space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 3 loops on your hook. We want to complete this cluster by yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops on your hook. Now we want to chain 1, and we're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster, again into the same chain space. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 3 loops on your hook. We'll do this a third time. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 4 loops on your hook. I'm going to complete this cluster by yarning over and pulling all the way through and doing another chain. Then into the next chain 2 space, we're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster, a chain, and another 3 double crochet cluster. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You should now have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, then chain 1. And then we'll repeat that. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then when you have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull all the way through, and chain 1. And now we just want to repeat that into each chain 2 space. So in each chain 2 space, you're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster, a chain, a 3 double crochet cluster, and a chain. And repeat that until you're back at the start. Once you've done 2 3 double crochet clusters into each chain space, and you've done 1 chain after your final cluster, now we just want to close row 3 by slip stitching back to the start of our work. So this initial chain that we did, we just want to insert our hook and do a slip stitch. And then we just want to fasten off, so you just want to cut a yarn tail for weaving in, and then you just want to hook the yarn on your hook and pull it all the way through and pull it tight. Now for row 4, you want your light pink yarn. And for round 4, we're going to be working into the top of our clusters. So the top of each cluster, you'll see 2 stitches. Here's the first one, here's the second one. And then on top of this cluster, we've got this one and this one. So starting in the first stitch of the first cluster, insert your hook, drape the pink yarn over your hook and bring it through to the front of your work. And then just for our very first stitch, we're going to do a chain 2. And we're also going to do a double crochet into the same stitch. Then into the next stitch, we will do 1 double crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet increase, so that means 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And into the next stitch, we'll do a single double crochet. And then we just repeat that around. So into this next cluster, into the first stitch, we'll do a double crochet increase, 1 double crochet, second double crochet into the same stitch, then into the next stitch, just 1 double crochet, and then repeat that. So 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet. Repeat that all the way around until you're back at the start, when you should have 48 stitches. So once you've got all the way around, again we just want to close off the round by joining with a slip stitch in the top of our starting chain. And then to fasten off. Now for round 5, we want our darker pink yarn. Okay, now again we can start in any stitch. So we just want to insert your hook under one of your double crochet stitches, drape over your dark pink yarn and pull it through to the front. Then we will start round 5 with a chain 3. Now we're going to do another popcorn stitch, but the difference is this time it's going to be split over 2 stitches rather than just in the one. So into the first stitch we're going to do 3 double crochets. And then we'll do 3 into the next stitch. So now you've done 3 double crochets into this stitch and 3 into this stitch. You want to turn your work around, and just like we did with the white popcorn stitches, we want to slip stitch back into the first stitch. So ignore this initial chain, but you want to put your hook under the first double crochet that you did of the 6 double crochets. then yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Now if you turn back around, there's your popcorn. We're going to chain 1, and then into the next stitch we will do a single double crochet. And then we'll chain 2. Into the next stitch we'll do a single double crochet. Chain 1. Then we're going to do another popcorn stitch across the next 2 stitches. So 3 double crochets into the first stitch. And 3 into the next. Then turn your work around. You want to work into the top of the first double crochet that you did, so make sure you don't accidentally chain into this single double crochet that we did here. You want to count back 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're working into the top of this one. Insert your hook under that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Then chain 1, turn your work back around, and into the next stitch we'll do a single double crochet. And then you're just going to repeat that pattern around. So just to clarify the pattern here, essentially you're doing a single double crochet, there's a single chain between that and your popcorn stitch, which is 6 double crochets spread across 2 stitches, slip stitched together. Then there's another single chain and a double crochet, and then between your popcorn stitches is a chain 2. So to continue this pattern you want to chain 2, do another double crochet, chain 1, popcorn stitch, chain 1, single double crochet, chain 2, start again. So essentially your stitches are 2 single crochets on either side of a popcorn stitch, and between each is a chain 2. So continue that, you'll do that 12 times in total, and I'll meet you back here at the end of row 5. So once you've done your last double crochets, you've done your popcorn stitch, chained 1, double crochet, you then want to do your final chain 2, and then we're going to connect back to our first stitch. So we just go under, pull up a loop, and pull that through as a slip knot to connect back to the start of our work. And again, we just want to fasten off by cutting a yarn tail and pulling it all the way through. Then for row 6, you want to use your white yarn. Now for our very first square, we're going to do the white border all the way around, but for subsequent squares, we're going to use a join as you go method. So only do this white border for your very first one. So I've actually changed the pattern for row 6, in part because the pattern doesn't make a lot of sense, but also I wanted more of a square shape rather than a round shape, so it looks better when you join them together at the end. The approach that I'm suggesting will still end up a little bit rounded. I think you probably need more rows to be able to properly square it off, but it will be much more square than if you follow the pattern. So you want to start in any chain space, and so the chain spaces we're going to be working in for row 6 is the 2 chain spaces, so these spaces here. So insert your hook into any one of those 2 chain spaces. You want your white yarn, drape it over your hook and pull through, and then we'll start with a chain 3. Then into the same chain space you want to do 2 double crochets. Then chain 3. And then another 3 double crochets still into the same chain space. And this forms the first corner of our square. Then next we're going to chain 3. And then into our next chain 2 space, so on the other side of our next popcorn stitch, we are going to do 3 half double crochets. So half double crochet, you want to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And you want to do 3 of those. Then we will chain 3 again and do another 3 double half crochets in the next space. And then chain 3 again. And this forms one side of your square. So now we're going to do another corner into this space. So we want to do 3 double crochets. Chain 3. And another 3 double crochets into the same gap. And there's our second corner. So then we just want to repeat this pattern around. So into this space you'll do chain 3, 3 half double crochets, chain 3, 3 half double crochets, chain 3, another corner here, so 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 half double crochets, chain 3, 3 half double crochets, and then this is our final corner, so 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets, and then repeat that around until you're back at the start here. So once you're back at the start here, you've done your last 3 half double crochets in chain 3. Now we're just going to join to our first chain to close off the round. Just do a slip stitch, cut off a yarn tail, and pull it all the way through. Once you finish row 6, now's a good time to weave in your ends. You can wait till the end to weave them all in, but you'll probably regret it if you do. So weaving in our ends is really just a way to secure these tails so that your work doesn't come unraveled and so that your work looks clean. So you want to take your tapestry needles. They do include a plastic one in the kit, but I personally find it really hard to work with. It's got a really wide head, so it's quite hard to pull through your stitches, so I'm just going to use one of my metal tapestry needles instead. And then to weave in your ends, you just want to take each end and thread it onto your tapestry needle. And then we're just wanting to sew the end basically in and through your stitches. There's no necessary right or wrong way, you just want to go in and through your stitches, probably at least 4 or 5 stitches, and you want to work in at least 3 directions. So once you've woven through a few stitches and you're comfortable that that is nice and secure, you can then just trim the yarn tail off close to your work. So now you want to repeat that for all of your yarn tails. When it comes to your initial yarn tail for your magic circle, you may just want to pull on that tail a little bit to kind of close the hole in. It's a matter of personal preference, you might prefer a slightly larger hole. And then you want to weave this yarn end in the opposite direction that you went in initially for your magic ring, just to stop it unraveling. And that's your first square complete. So now you just want to repeat that process for your next square, but stop after row 5. So once you've done the hot pink popcorn stitches, come back here because I'm going to show you how to do a join as you go method, which means rather than seaming all of the finished squares together, we'll actually connect them as we go. So just to show you what we're working towards, I've done one side of the cushion cover already. So using the join as you go method means that these squares have actually been connected as I have stitched the white rows. So now once you've got your first completed square and your next circle up to row 5, now we're going to add the white border to the circle while joining it to the first square. So again, you just want your white yarn, and we're just going to start in this upper right corner. So again, you just want to insert your hook, drape the white yarn over, pull it through to the front of your work and chain 3. This is going to be a corner section, so we'll do 2 double crochets. So that first chain 3, by the way, basically acts as your first double crochet in your very first corner. Then chain 3 and 3 double crochets. So our first corner, then chain 3, 3 half double crochets in this chain space, chain 3 and 3 half double crochets in the next chain space, chain 3. Now this next corner is where we're going to start joining it to our first square that we made. So to start, we'll just do the first 3 double crochets as normal. And then typically we would do 3 chains now, but instead we're going to do 1 chain, we're going to slip stitch to the square and then a 3rd chain. Okay, so we'll chain 1 as normal. Then instead of our second chain, we're going to connect to this corner chain space here. So after our first chain, we want to insert our hook into the front of this chain space, then yarn over and pull through. And then to slip stitch, you want to pull this hook through the one on your hook. And then we'll just do the 3rd chain as normal. And then we want to do our 3 double crochets back into this square. Then we're going to join our next chain 3 into this chain space. So again, we just chain 1. Then you want to insert your hook into the front of this chain 3 space here, in between our corner and our 3 half double crochets. Go into the front, yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. Then we chain 1, and then we come back to the square and do our 3 half double crochets into the next space. So I know this probably looks a little bit confusing, but essentially what we're doing is, instead of our chain 3 spaces, we're doing a chain 1, a slip stitch and a chain 1. And again here we did a chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1. So we're essentially just joining all of these chain spaces together as we go. So again we chain 1, then we insert our hook into the next chain space, yarn over, pull through all the way, and then chain 1. And then do our second lot of half double crochets in here. And then again we chain 1, insert into the front of the next chain space, pull all the way through, and chain 1. And then we're going to connect to this corner space like we did the first one. So firstly do your 3 double crochets as normal. Then chain 1, go into the front of the corner space, slip stitch, chain 1, and then finish the corner with your 3 half double crochets. And now those 2 sides are connected, and you can just continue around the rest of this square as usual. So chain 3 half double crochets, chain 3 half double crochets, 3 double crochets, chain 3 double crochets, 3 half double crochets, 3 half double crochets, slip stitch to the start of your round and fasten off. Then once you've done that for your second square, go ahead and work up to row 5 on your 3rd square, and then you can join your 3rd square in exactly the same way that we've done this one. And I'll meet you back here once you finish your first row of 3, and I'll show you how to connect the square here. So you might notice that actually one of these squares is not like the others. Very frustratingly, I actually ran out of yarn. So this is the second side of the cushion cover. I've already done one side before I started filming. And with about 3 squares to go, I ran out of the hot pink yarn completely, and I think I probably would have also run out of the pale pink yarn as well. So what I've done is made a few squares using my own yarn, and I'm going to have the contrasting squares as a diagonal on this side of the cushion cover. It's a real pet peeve of mine when these kits don't include the right amount of yarn, because it's part of the point of having a kit like this is that you get just the right amount of materials that you need for the project, and that you don't need to buy a whole ball of yarn that you don't need. If you're worried about this happening yourself, I would suggest being a little bit judicious with your yarn tails. I tend to be quite generous with the length of yarn tail that I leave to help with sewing in. So I'd just be a little bit conscious about how much of a yarn tail you leave. And if you are worried about running out of yarn, I would suggest doing all of your circles up to row 5 first before you start joining them, so that if you do need to make some contrasting squares in a different yarn, you can decide what layout you want for those contrasting circles before you start joining it together. Now, to join the 4th circle, you just want to join along this side, just like we did for these two. One thing just to note though is you want to join into this corner, into these chain spaces along here as normal, but when you get to this corner, make sure you only join into this section here. You don't want to join in the middle here, and you don't want to join into this square at all. So you're only joining into this one, and then you'll do the other 3 sides as usual. So I'll meet you back here once you've attached the 4th circle, and then I'll show you how to do the one in the middle here, because this will be the first square where we're actually joining on 2 sides rather than one. Okay, now once you're up to the 5th circle, we start that one just like all the others. So start up in the top right corner, chain 3, 2 double crochets, chain 3, 3 more double crochets, chain 3, and then just continue this top side, which will not be joined as usual. So 3 double half crochets, 3 chain, 3 double half crochets. And then in the next space is our corner, which we're going to be joining up here. So again, start with your 3 double crochets, chain 1, go through the front of this space and slip stitch, chain 1, and 3 more double crochets, and then continue joining along here until you get to this corner. Okay, now when you get to this top here where you're joining on 2 sides, so you do your first lot of 3 double half crochets, then we will chain 1. Now this time we're actually going to connect through both this one that we're joining on the left hand side, and also through the one we're about to join on this side as well. You don't want to go through this diagonal one, we're just going through this space here and this space here. And if you're ever confused about which gaps you're going into, just think about which sides you're connecting. So we're connecting this side, so these 2 squares, and this side, so these 2 squares. We're not connecting to this one. To insert your hook through both gaps, then yarn over and pull all the way through, and chain 1. Now we want to finish our 3 more double crochets, so now we've connected into the corner. Now you just want to continue along this side as usual, so connect into this space, this space, this space, and the corner, and then continue around until you're back at the start. Then you just want to continue this process. So this square here, you'll do exactly the same as you have for this one. So we're joining on this side and this side. So at the corner here, you want to go through both of the 2 squares on the diagonal, but not the square. and then you just want to repeat exactly what you've done for row 2 for the final third row. And I'll meet you back here once you've done all 9 squares, and I'll show you how to do the outer border. So once you've connected all 9 of your squares, we're now going to do a border around the entire side of the cushion cover. So for the border, what we're going to do is we'll do a double crochet into each of your half double crochets and double crochets from your last round. Into these chain spaces, we're going to do 3 double crochets. Into these corner joins here, we'll do 1 double crochet into this gap, 1 into this gap, and 1 into this gap. And then in our 4 corners, we'll do 4 double crochets. So you can start anywhere. Drape your yarn over your hook, pull it to the front of your work, and then to begin, we'll just chain 3. Then we'll do double crochets into these 2 double crochets here. Into the chain space, we'll do 3 double crochets. Into these 3 half double crochets, we'll do a double crochet into each. And then we'll continue that along. Then when you get to this join, we'll do 1 double crochet into here, 1 into here, and 1 into here. And then once you get to this corner, we're going to do 4 double crochets into the corner space. And then we just continue this pattern all the way along each side until we're back at the start. Okay, once you're back to where you started the border, you just want to slip stitch into your initial chain 3 and fasten off. And then you just want to weave in your tail ends from your border, and that's one side of your cushion cover or tote bag done. So now you just want to repeat this process in its entirety to make the second side of your cover, and then I'll show you how to seam them together. Okay, once you finish your 2 sides, now we're going to seam them together. I'll show you how you can make this into a cushion cover as per the pattern, but also how you could make it into a tote bag as well. Regardless of whether you're doing a cushion cover or a tote bag, you just want to start by seaming 3 sides and leaving one side open. And if you're making a tote bag, you want to leave the side open that you want to be the top. If, like me, you've done some contrasting colours in your pattern because you've run out of yarn. So to seam it together, you just want to line your 2 sides together with the right sides facing out. And then you want to insert your hook into a stitch on one side of your cushion cover and then into the corresponding stitch on the other side. And I suggest doing a corner one just so that you can make sure you've actually got the right stitch. So if I do the stitch just to the right of my 4 corner stitches, and then I can make sure that I go into the same stitch in the other side. Drape your green yarn over your hook and pull it through to the front. And now we're just going to single crochet. Then insert your hook into the second stitch and into the corresponding stitch on the other side. Make sure you get under both loops of both stitches. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And you just want to repeat this all the way around until you've stitched up 3 of the 4 sides. Okay, so once you've seamed up 3 sides and you're back up at the top here, now this is when you want to decide whether you want to make this into a cushion cover or a tote bag. If you want to make it into a cushion cover, then at this stage you want to insert your cushion inner. So you just want to make sure you don't lose your work. So just pull up a big loop and insert a stitch marker There are a couple of stitch markers included in the kit. Insert it into your work and then pull it tight, and that'll just make sure your work doesn't unravel while you're working. Then you just want to insert your cushion cover here, and then you basically just continue seaming this top seam once your inner is inside your cushion. Once you get back to the start here, you want to slip stitch to join and then fasten off and weave in your final yarn tail, and then your cushion cover will be complete. If, however, like me, you would like to make a tote bag instead of a cushion cover, what you'll need is a tote bag. If you don't have a tote bag or you don't want to use a tote bag, you can just crochet some handles directly on the top of this. The reason I suggest using a tote bag though is because this pattern has quite a lot of gaps and holes in it, and so I think it really needs a lining to be practical, because otherwise things are going to fall through your bag when you're using it. So you could sew a lining or use something else as a lining, but I think using a plain canvas tote bag is a really simple way to turn this into a practical bag. If you don't want to use a tote bag and you just want to sew some handles on, I suggest searching on YouTube. There are heaps of free tutorials out there for granny square totes, so just look for one that has some handles that you like. So if you're going to use a canvas tote bag, then what you want to do next is actually continue your border but not joining these two ends. So instead we're just going to single crochet across the front and then around until you're back at your stitch marker, so that we've got a nice blue edge to the top of our bag. So once you've done that, I'll meet you back here and I'll show you how to attach it to your tote bag. Okay, so once you've done single crochets all the way around the top of the bag, we just want to insert our tote bag. So this is just a plain cotton tote bag that I had, but mine was a little bit long, so I just folded up the bottom and ironed it so that it will fit my cover. Okay, now what you want to do is chain one, and then we're going to do another row of single crochets on top of the first row, and you just want to single crochet across until you get to the start of your first strap. And then once you get to the first strap, we are now going to chain as many chains as we need to match the width of the strap. And then once you've done enough chains to loop around the back of your strap, you then want to re-enter in the front of your work and do a single crochet. And then you can just keep doing single crochets across the top until you get to the second strap where you want to do the same thing. So essentially we're doing a chain to attach the cover to the strap. So just continue that with single crochets, a chain connected on the other side, and do that all the way around for all four of your straps. Okay, so once you've gone the full way around the top of the bag and you've connected your cover to your straps on all four straps, then to finish off, you just want to slip stitch to the first stitch that you made in the row, cut off your yarn tail and fasten off. Then all you need to do is weave in these final two yarn ends and your bag is complete. I hope you found this video useful. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more info and inspo for new crochet makers. If there's any part of this pattern that's still stumping you, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if there are any other kits you've tried that are confusing and you'd like me to make a tutorial on them. Thanks for crocheting with me today, and happy crafting!